Motherfucker. The whole thing. I watched the whole fucking thing. And you know, as I was watching it, I was like, at the start, I was like, okay, I guess the answers to Prometheus will be a little later on. I'd watch it a little more, and I'm thinking to myself, alright, so I guess the cool Xenomorph, creepy stuff is going to happen later on. And then the movie ended. And I was like, the fuck is this? I just watched a movie for nothing! I know it wasn't the exact South Park quote. I couldn't remember it off the top of my head. My apologies. But still, that scene from the South Park episode of Catcher in the Rye, yeah, that's very prudent for this. That feels very like that was the first thing that came to my mind after walking out of Alien Covenant. Now, as most of you guys know, I was not. Most of you guys know by now that I was not really hyped for this film. I never really had high expectations, even though Ridley Scott showed that he was still a great director from The Martian, but I still had my doubts. Well, it's a good thing my expectations weren't set too high. Now, here's the thing. I didn't walk away from this movie fully hating it. If anything, I'd say give it a matinee. That's... if you're not... But here's the problem. As a diehard Xenomorph fan, and a fan of the Alien franchise, this... What the fuck happened? Oh, man. Well, give it a rental, actually, if anything. But, yeah, this movie... Wow. Now, look, if you enjoyed Prometheus, that's totally fine. But here's the thing. If you were looking for answers from Prometheus, you ain't gonna get any. Because the most you're going to get is them... Honestly, you could watch this without even watching Prometheus. You really could. You could honestly watch this without watching Prometheus, because it gives you the bare-bones answer of what happened to Shaw and David. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm going to be spoiling this movie. So if you don't want to be spoiled about Alien Covenant, now would be a good time to back out now. Okay, so if you're still here, I'm guessing you either want to be spoiled or you've already seen the movie. So, yeah. So as always, let's talk about the obvious one. Like I said, all the stuff you wanted to see in Prometheus, yeah, that doesn't... Nothing really correlates here other than gives you a brief answer of what happened to Shaw and what the ultimate fates of Shaw and David. Yeah, it turns out David has gone total Mr. Sinister, and he's the one who went to the homeworld of the engineers and dropped the payload on them that they were going to drop on Earth, use it on them, and he killed Shaw to experiment on her. There you go. Hope you're all excited for that conclusion. But yeah, it doesn't give you an explanation as to why they wanted to exterminate humanity. It didn't give you any answers of why, what kind of contagion the engineers were trying to run from at the beginning of Prometheus. Doesn't give you any of that. Like I said, you could honestly go in without watching Prometheus and get none of the answers. Yeah. Now, before I go any further, let's actually talk about some good things. This movie actually looks beautiful. Ridley Scott knows how to make a movie. Well, here's the thing. It's kind of like making a comic book with all this pretty art, and that's all it's remembered for because the story's goddamn shit. That's kind of what it is here, is that movie looks beautiful, and there's some great cinematography in here. Actually, yeah, there's some pretty good shots. I like, some of the new Xenomorphs called Neomorphs, which are like the proto-Xenomorphs, they come in little spores and they enter through the skin, through like you inhale them. And one of them, there's this great in-the-ear shot of a spore going in and burying itself in a guy's brain. And I was like, that's actually a pretty cool shot. And how they explode out of people's backs, I'm like, oh yeah, that's kind of like how some parasites are in the world that actually do that. So, yeah, the Neomorphs themselves are interesting. They're an interesting threat at the beginning, and yeah. But still, doesn't excuse the big factor here, and this is what you were all waiting for. How dumb are the people here? Seriously, the crew of the Prometheus would go, you guys are fucking dumb. First off, here's the major thing. Why even go to the planet? Because here's what happens. James Franco who, by the way, yeah, if you saw him in the prequel, good luck. Congratulations, that's the most you ever see him in the fucking movie. So, he dies, and this new guy becomes captain. And they discover this planet, and they're like, he's like, we should go because that's closer. That will give us be only a few weeks away, and it has more stuff from the planet we were originally going to. Now, initially, that may look good, but shouldn't you, I don't know, send a probe or a drone or drop a drone on the planet before you decide to, go down to the planet? Oh yeah, they do have a drone, don't get me wrong, but they don't frickin' use it. At all, it's just there. Wouldn't logic dictate that, that you would send the probe out first before you went out? Just saying. Also, you can't tell me that this colony ship, this scientific colony ship, full of all these cool little gadgets, doesn't have a probe, so you can shoot it out first and detect, what's there first, or what had been there first. You can't tell me that you don't have that. Also, there's some just really dumb decisions. If you thought the people in, Friday the 13th were dumb, oh no, it gets worse here. Seriously, I think the surviving teenagers in Friday the 13th would go, what the fuck, dude? There are points where they just split off even though they know there's a dangerous organism running around, and they're like, okay, I'm going to go take a pee, or I'm going to go take a shower. There's even a scene where the Xenomorph is on board their ship, and they're trying to blare sirens to the other two survivors, and the music, and they can't hear it because they're in the shower and the music's too loud. Wouldn't it, make more sense if the music cut out and the sound went off? And, yeah. Also, there's just other what is it? Also, when David introduces the eggs, which I'll get to close to David in a moment. But yeah, I'll get to David in a moment. But yeah, when he takes the captain downstairs after he's playing with one of the Xenomorphs, and he shows him an egg, and after he tells him everything he's done, he says, "Here, stick your face in it. Stick your face in this ominous egg." And what does dumbass do? Splat! Right in the face. Also, there's no build-up or anything to the Xenomorph. It's just boom, chestbuster. And it immediately becomes a mini version of the creature. So, the weight cycle, I guess, was exponential in the back then. And here's the other thing. It's now said that the Xenomorphs are now created by David in this continuity. Which I'm like, so what about the queens? And how did you even build the eggs? How did you create them? And if there were animals on this planet, why didn't you use the facehuggers on them? Yeah, because how did you even fashion the first few eggs? And now this, that David's apparently the one who created the Xenomorph species. Yeah, how did the queens become? How do we get queens? And yeah. That's my big thing. It's where are the queens? Anyway, now David himself, Michael Fassbender does an amazing job as both David and the new synthetic Walter. He does a great dual role, and there's actually some cool scenes between them when they're just talking and having these conversations. It's actually one of the highlights of the movie. I'm not joking. It's actually really good. It's one of my favorite parts of Prometheus. It's one of my favorite things here. It kind of feels like, and I'm borrowing from Jeremy John's review, it's kind of like almost Data and Lore, in a way, between Walter and David. It's very much like Data and Lore. And I guess you could say the Xenomorphs are like the crystalline being. Just throwing that out there. Also, another surprise to me of how good this actor was Danny McBride. I honestly thought I would not like Danny McBride at all, because obviously everything else he had done up to this point was a vast majority of comedies. But no, he's actually one of the cool parts of the movie. Although he does play the drunk, cocky pilot, and also there's some really dumb shit moments that he pulls as well. where he has to take the entire colony ship close to a storm that is literally half the size of the planet. Yeah. Also, it does, another interesting thing is that, it does play into something I was talking about when the build-up to Alien Covenant, where the vast majority of the crew are all related, by marriage in some way. And yeah, it does play a factor in the early part of the film, but the problem is they don't delve too deep into it. They're just like, oh, that sucks, my wife or husband is dead. Oh well. And that's yeah, there's some moments where it does play a factor, but once they find out, he or she's dead, that sucks. Oh well. They don't go too deeper into it. And also, there are some other moments where, like, they're following David into, like, a huge temple that belonged to the engineers, and you see all these, like, bodies, thousands of them, all just destroyed by the payload David dropped on them. And they're just like, oh, this is weird. I guess we won't talk about it. I guess we won't mention it at all, though. Let's just go off and have separate adventures. God. Also, yeah, the moment, when quote-unquote Walter comes back after his fight with David, which actually was admittedly kind of awesome of watching Fassbender fight himself. Also, there's also a scene that kind of made me prove how immature I am. There's a scene, I'm going to get to this, there's a scene where David is playing tongue-tied. David is trying to teach Walter how to play a pipe that he fashioned himself, and he's holding it for Walter as he's blowing into it, and he goes, "I'll do the fingering," and I went, yeah, in the middle of the theater. Once again, I am so fucking immature. But no, it is a really good scene. But yeah, the moment after their fight, I was like, yeah, that's not David. That's not Walter. That's David. You're not fooling anybody. Thank you. Look, bottom line, there was a lot more in here I liked more in Alien Covenant than Prometheus, but that is not saying a lot. That, unfortunately, is not saying a lot. This grandiose fucks up the Alien continuity. Which, yeah, if you guys don't know, I'm a huge fan of the Dark Horse Alien comics. I knew they were never really in canon, but it does kind of hurt the whole continuity there. But at the same time, it also hurts any kind of threat the Xenomorphs had. We only get 2 Xenomorphs, and they're at the end of the act, but there's no, gravitas to them. They're just like a final boss character you fight. You'd be more scared of the Xenomorph in Alien Isolation than the Xenomorphs here. Yeah. Although, admittedly, yeah, Alien Isolation's a pretty fucking cool-ass game, and you should go play it. Just throwing that out there. So, yeah. Although I like this more than the last movie I saw, King Arthur Legend of the Sword, that's not saying much. There are some interesting things here and there, but they don't go for... Especially the stuff with David. Even though it does fuck with the continuity, David's an interesting villain, and there's some cool stuff between him and Walter. But yeah, this made me walk away pissed off. Yeah, this was not great, guys. Anyway, so, in the end, would I recommend this? If you're a diehard Xenomorph fan, and Alien fan, you're gonna be angry. But anyway, so there you go, guys. There's my review of Alien Covenant. But yeah, that's just my personal opinion, and if you like the movie, that's totally fine. No ill will against you. But yeah, once again, if you watched Alien Covenant, just comment below, let me know, did you guys like it, did you guys hate it, and are you guys interested in what's to come next in the Alien universe? Once again, hope you all enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys later.